laugh. Like he would do something that we were just not expecting.
Go rogue a little?
Yeah, like he would, and they'd be like, wait a sec, we weren't expecting that. And Carolina hasn't always liked that under Brind'Amour. So I wonder if they're going to bend a little bit too in the nature of creativity. I still think 2C is Carolina's big question. I tell you this, if Claude Giroux had hit free agency, and I didn't think he was going to leave, but if Giroux had hit free agency, I could have seen the Hurricanes taking a big run at him.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that I suppose the experience there for sure would be an attractive option for Carolina. And yeah, Giroux still just got a lot of game left. And when
yes, he does.
When Ehlers did media on Saturday, he said when he talked to Brind'Amour, they very much had the same vision in terms of how they see the whole fit with him within the lineup. But I suppose the conversation in July is one thing. It's another thing once they get to camp and the regular season gets going there. And when he was, of course, he's asked about the decision to move on from Winnipeg. And there was that whole idea about when Jonathan Toews signed that, maybe that could help entice Ehlers to stay, the opportunity to play with him. But in listening to the player the other day, Elliot, it felt quite clear that, even well before Toews had signed in Winnipeg, Ehlers had made up his mind that it was time for something new.
Yeah, I think so. Like he didn't officially tell them until right before the draft. We reported right before the draft, but there were certainly people who believed even before then he was headed out, right? So that turned out to be 100% accurate. I'll say this: some of the other teams in the West, they really believe that Ehlers wanted some of the lighter travel on the East, just the health of his body and things like that. He's had some injuries, and I understand all that.
The thing though, I'm sure you've done enough games down in Raleigh, but like the last couple of years when they've played Florida in the conference final, you think it would just be like a puddle jump flight from Raleigh down to South Florida. It's a little bit farther than everybody thinks. And I guess that speaks to, as we talked about, the Panthers don't have as easy of a travel as a lot of other teams out east. But
the Panthers and the Panthers and the Lightning are the teams that really get hammered in the East. Like I said, Carolina's a bit remote, but they're not as far away as those other teams are.
Yeah, a little more central. Okay. From Carolina to Columbus, who it feels like, Elliot, like they've got a good foundation built. Everything they went through last year, nearly making the playoffs. They bring in Charlie Coyle, Miles Wood, they extend Provorov, Dante Fabro. But at the same time, I still go back to that blog you put out just before the draft and the idea that they could be a team lurking in the weeds to do something big hasn't quite happened yet for Don Waddell and company. Where are you at with Columbus?
I don't think it was for lack of trying. They made a big run at Dobson. I think they offered, I don't know about the structure of the contract because Dobson got structure from Montreal in terms of bonuses, but I do believe in overall money. Columbus offered more money. Like, for example, with Provorov, I think if you would have told us 2 weeks before free agency that Columbus was going to sign Provorov to that deal, I don't think anyone would have believed it. It's pretty clear to me that Waddell and Provorov and his representatives had conversations a few months ago, and Waddell always knew what it was going to take, and he just waited until he absolutely had to do it. He looked at Dobson, didn't get him. He looked at other opportunities, didn't get it, and all of a sudden he circled back and said, okay, I'm in now. And, Waddell's been around long enough that I think he knows that can happen sometimes, that's the plan you have to handle. So I think that one worked out because his other opportunities weren't there. It wasn't for lack of trying. And, someone told me, a Blue Jackets fan DM'd, they were it was basically nobody wants to come here, nobody wants to play here. I don't think people should look at it like that. I mean, there's always going to be places, I always say this, nobody wanted to go to Florida a while ago. And yes, the taxes are a thing, but the fact is they're a better organization. There are always places that people are going to want to play. People are always going to want to play in certain markets, NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, hockey, everywhere. And other teams, you have to be good, and then people will come to you. The one thing I said to the guy was Columbus is on the upswing. Columbus, I don't want to relive it, but they had every excuse last year to have a bad year, and they didn't. They had a really impressive year, and they just missed the playoffs. So, like, I think the thing this year for them is nobody's going to be discounting them this year. Like last year, they snuck up on everybody. Nobody's going to be, they're not going to be sneaking up on anybody this year. Everyone's going to be ready for them. And I think the thing too is that for Columbus, ultimately you want your drafted and developed players to be your core, right? The guys who stick up for you and form your big group. Well, look, like a lot of those guys from Fantilli on down took big steps last year. So those are the guys you've got to get it done with anyway. Voronkov signed a nice extension on Saturday. Like those are the guys who are your core. If they are going to grow again next year the way they grew this year, that's the best thing that could happen for you. The thing I heard about Coyle is that Colorado made it very clear that if you were going to get him, you were probably going to have to take Miles Wood too. Like Miles Wood needed a change of scenery. It just didn't work out in Colorado. Columbus could do that. That is one place where Columbus's cap flexibility won the day for them. They got Coyle because they were willing to take Wood, and all of a sudden their bottom six is stronger, and Coyle can play in a lot of different places. So I don't think it's as bad a off-season so far as they think. The other thing too is they got Favreau signed, and once Favreau became a key part of their top four was really good. Still, we'll see what's going to happen in goal. It looks like Greaves and Merzlikins. Is everybody okay with that? But the fact is, Columbus's biggest challenge this year will be they're not going to sneak up on anybody. So they got to be ready to start the year.
One more thing on Columbus. Adam Fantilli is due for an extension as of now. Are you hearing anything about that being a priority over the next couple of months, or wait and see?
To be honest, Kyle, I have shut down for a couple of days, especially with the U.S. holiday weekend. I can't say that I've heard anything new. Why wouldn't they want to do it? To me, the question is, like, if you're Fantilli and you just broke through, unless the team's coming through with something massive, you might want to wait another year.
For sure. And it's, plenty of examples over the years of how that can benefit the player and why that would add urgency to the team to try to entice him to get something done sooner, because, man, did he, as the last year went on, more and more comfortable he got and more just like the player they hoped they were getting when they drafted him where they did. So it's kind of fitting then that we go from Columbus to New Jersey, because they've got an important new contract to get done with Luke Hughes, Elliot. And you mentioned you shutting it down a little bit over the holiday weekend. Tom Fitzgerald suggested as much a few days ago. And then next week, the talks really start to get going in terms of getting Luke Hughes, under a new deal. Is that the biggest thing going on in New Jersey right now in your mind?
That's still the biggest thing to come there. And